You warmed your hands together in the chill, breathing into the leather gloves to help keep the heat inside. The 2-week leave was relaxing and helped ease your mind a lot better, especially after spending the Christmas and New Year holiday with Hitoshi Shinsou, cooped up in the apartment, lazing about and generally just enjoying each other's company. You hate to admit that there was a lot of nuzzling and cuddling on the couch. And the rug. Deciding to binge on television shows long overdue and preferably curling with a few books to catch up on. There was even a day of you just detangling Shinsou's hair, which he had agreed if he was allowed to play with yours. Christmas and the New Year's was a time for some self-reflection and care. But now that your 2-week leave was up, it was your turn to work. And for Shinsou to relax with the rest of his leave hours at home. The smell of him on the large scarf you wore filled your senses before you entered into the commission's building, shaking off any residual snow from your coat before you made your way towards the personnel section, tapping a keycard upon the wall to allow you entry through the heavy door. The hallways looked clinical, and your shoes echoed through the halls before you greeted a few agents on the way to your designated room. Greeted by one agent who had been working closely with you on this suspect. You stared through the window pane into the interrogation room, eyeing the man that was handcuffed to the table, sitting there calmly. His honey-colored reptilian eyes stared straight into you, even though it was a one-way mirror, and probably was staring at his reflection more so. Still, it was unnerving to watch suspects, criminals, and perpetrators act in this way.
What do we have?
You asked while you removed your gloves, scarf, and coat.
Nothing. Not one peep from him ever since you were on leave,
answered the agent.
He refused to speak to anyone else, always asking for you. He's been waiting this whole time?
You questioned while the agent reviewed your notes from previous interrogations.
He didn't say anything out of the ordinary?
You still eyed your notes, revisiting a few things you've jotted down during the 1 or 2 sessions you had with this man. Aside from any physical aspects, he held himself well. He spoke in an old tongue. He spoke cryptically, or so you wish to believe. He had also attempted to connect with you somehow, to try to side with him, but for what reasons you were unsure. At first it felt like what every suspect would do, but there was something in your gut that felt different. Call it intuition, you thought, hoping that you may be overthinking too much.
Wait, when did you get that?
Asked the agent, pointing towards your necklace.
Oh, it was a Christmas gift from Hitoshi.
You answered, gingerly brushing your fingers against the amber cat's eye stone that hung from the chain. You smiled down at the little gift before your eyes trailed back to the agent. Her eyes furrowed in thought, concerned and suspecting of the jewel by your collarbone.
Something wrong? The suspect said something about you on Christmas Eve in his cell.
Motioned the agent, looking back at the man still staring through the mirror.
The guard on call mentioned it in his report. He said,
"Let the interrogator know that I sent my congratulations for their wedding knot."
Confused, you eyed the suspect in the room, watching him fiddle with his fingers while he continued to stare back.
We thought it was just some ramblings late at night, but,
Secret, can you keep it?
Did Shinsou propose?
No, you interrupted, still brushing your fingers on the stone by your chest.
Let me in. I'll continue where I left off.
With a nod, the agent acknowledged your request before you left the room with papers in hand, leaving her to watch over the session from the safety of the glass pane. You took in a deep breath while you stood by the doors of the interrogation room. It must be some ploy or trick, you thought. Just mind games. You were already adept in such things as an interrogator, catching out lies by simply probing the minds of those you questioned. But this man was different somehow. Your former classmate, Kirishima, reported on the incident back on Nabu Island, already highlighting what kind of person he could be, banking on any detail there to help you traverse what his thought patterns were like. Straightening your shoulders and breathing once more, you opened the door, entering into the room where the suspect sat, his tired snake eyes glancing towards you with a smile. He had refused to change out into any other clothes offered by the commission, still in the strange outfit he wore upon capture. It was almost regal in fashion. You still wondered if it was some kind of outfit to benefit his quirk, but aside from the intricacies in its design, it seemed far-fetched to think that. You strode in with confidence and assertiveness, keeping your guard, but also holding your own position in the space. Interrogations were always mind games.
It's good to see you again,
spoke the man with a gentle smile.
I thought I may have scared you off.
I don't break that easy,
you replied while you took a seat in front of him, your arms leaning against the metallic table that separated the both of you.
I'd be disappointed if you did. After all, I've met someone like you before, and they weren't in the best mindset.
Oh, so you still believe you know me?
All you were met with was that smile. That same smile of his that he had only shown to you. Observations of the suspect had been lackluster, nothing spoken unless it was about you. Targeting a single person rather than anyone that was surrounding him was a tactic many shared. Keep your focus on one mind.
Well, I still don't know anything about you,
you continued.
You don't exist on the Commission's register, which means you weren't born here. But there had been no one of your description entering into the country over the last 6 months. This only tells me that you're an illegal traveler, so unless you explain yourself, I won't have any other choice but to find out myself. What's so funny?
Just your choice of words.
For a moment, you watched his eyes drift towards the table, now silent. You played with your thumbs, hoping to give him another chance, but when nothing continued, you readied yourself, opening your mind to begin probing into his.
CQ.
You stopped to watch his eyes catch a glimpse of yours, serious and unmoving, until he leaned back onto his chair while the chains of his cuffs scraped against the metallic table.
My name. But you can call me Seek.
As in, hide and seek?
You could see it that way. Sure.
So where are you from?
Nowhere.
You eyed him again, scrutinizing, hoping to come across threateningly. He had been disarming and diverting your questions so far, and the matter was still at hand about who he really was. He seemed to have picked up on your cue, eyeing you still with that smile.
Everywhere,
he concluded.
I need a straight answer. Where did you come from?
You asked, leaning on your arms.
You've assured us that dragons won't ever return to the island, and yet you haven't used your quirk at all to escape.
How would you know what my quirk was?
Red Riot's report. He was the one who captured you.
I surrendered.
Well then, Enlighten me why you haven't made any attempts to escape.
That smile again. He always gave you this gentle and warm smile. It was unnerving, even before your holiday leave, that he would be so forthcoming in nature with you and yet withhold so much. You've withheld yourself from using your quirk to peruse his head, hoping to get him to cooperate. But his cryptic answers and wayward behavior is making it all the more tempting for you to just deep dive into that brain of his.
I'm inevitably trapped here. What talents I have are only subject to the world around me, and I am privy to that. I need time for some soul searching before I can maneuver myself.
So you need an object of reference for your quirk?
You questioned, eyeing him in confusion.
You could say that, but I'm impressed. You understood that better than your other selves.
There he went again, you thought. Cryptic replies and messages front and center. He spoke them so casually as if it were common knowledge. It made you think if he was clinically mad. This whole time speaking with him, he had not lied.
You're confused.
He spoke.
Eiichiro Kirishima was the same.
How did you...
I'm familiar with Kirishima, as I am with you, and Hitoshi Shinsou.
Your eyes widened slightly at the mention of Shinsou's name. It wasn't large news about the two of you being a couple, but with Shinsou's growing fame and work in pro-hero society, the talk of the town grew more towards who he was spending time with. A bit of a headache through gossip chains and such, seeing how Bakugo's engagement was leaked into the tabloids fairly quickly. Still, it was an unnerving feeling to hear his name coming from Seek's lips.
Congratulations.
He piped, eyeing the necklace around your neck.
It was a Christmas gift.
You quickly explained.
It was a promise.
He clarified.
A little late in the game, but better late than never.
How do you know Shinsou?
You asked, interrupting Seek's ramblings further.
I've met him before, but sadly not this one.
He explained.
Tell me, what does he call you?
I'm asking the questions here.
You continued, attempting to exercise self-control. You pulled the papers beside you out onto the table, opening them to reveal numerous photos of men and women, the only captured footage of the Tartarus prison break.
Do you recognize any of these people?
Seek eyed you inquisitively, refusing to look at the photos and instead kept his gaze on you with a smile.
What makes you think I would?
He asked back.
Either answer the question, or I will have no choice.
You threatened, keeping your gaze on him. Despite your forthcoming approach, your heart raced. He began to get under your skin speaking about Shinsou. Just a tactic, a mind game, you thought. He was trying to get in your head before you chose to. Meanwhile, Seek's honey eyes watched yours with a curiosity, sensing your serious and yet discomforting energy in your shoulders and your hands. He exhaled before he examined the photos, spotting each person until one caught his eye. He outstretched his hand, dragging the photo closer to him, inspecting it in further detail. You recognize who he spotted. That assassin back at Esuha City who accosted Shinsou and yourself, and whom Shinsou had taken the mantle at his agency to track down. You turned to Seek, now with interest piqued on his sudden familiarity with the person.
You know them?
You asked.
In another lifetime.
He answered, dropping the photo in front of him.
Wouldn't be surprised if they made a pact with these other people. Or a little sweet.
This back and forth was a mind game indeed. Sighing exasperatedly at the deflections, Seek would counter with every question you threw. However, the look in his eye had changed. It was no longer gentle, but a serious and hardened look. You deduced that this assassin must be close to him.
Tartarus had a prison break, and they were highly involved.
You explained.
They released Kai Chisaki from confinement. It was all the news over a month ago. Do you know the others?
Never seen them in my life.
He immediately answered.
But now I know I need it here. Thank you.
Seek stopped short of his breath, staring back at you again with those gentle eyes. That moment of serious contemplation did not last long, as if whatever he needed processing was as short as a second, or otherwise. He knew more than he was prepared to give.
Pet?
He spoke, catching you immediately.
Excuse me?
Oh, so he doesn't call you that.
You stared at the man while he raised his cuffed hands to his teal hair, mussed and unkempt, thanks to his stay here at the commission.
Still, he chose well.
He continued, eyeing your necklace again.
The same stone he gave you at Eyebright.
I don't know what you're playing at, but stop!
You threatened, your eyes still holding onto his. He wasn't lying.
You should be thrilled. It's a sign of good things to come for you. I was hoping more from another time, but sadly, they broke you before you could.
Shut up!
It's why I'm thrilled you came back. I thought maybe my mind would be too overwhelming for you to comprehend, but I have rules to abide by.
You were at the site where a dragon was terrorizing a local town.
You rounded back to the topic at hand. It was getting out of control.
Actually, he was searching for something, just like I was, and that day was the day he found it. No one got hurt. I just don't want to break you.
Your eyes stared into his, watching his thin pupils dilate, locking your sights until you entered into his mind and silenced his words. The surface was always the same. Active remnants of any thoughts that would turn into words. You dove past his concerns and entered deeper, further than you had gone. Feeling, seeing, smelling. All memories at your disposal. And it was truly overwhelming. Within your mind space, a white, endless room. You watched images around you, memories of bodies walking past you, the smell of a number of things, and the whispers of voices so familiar. You spotted your former classmates, but they weren't your classmates. They dressed differently, acted differently. There were a slew of everyone mixed together, their voices drowning your ears, growing louder in their cacophony until... Silence. You focused on the one voice you knew too well, the smell of his cologne, an arresting mix of cardamom and coffee that was on your scarf that very morning. And soon the shape of him silhouetted in the room, before he became clearer for you to see.
Why are you here?
You whispered. This was not your mind. It was Seek's. Perhaps he was telling the truth, but was it your truth? Or his? The image of Shinsou morphed into his tired and exhausted self, dressed in that purple suit. Kokimurasaki, you remembered, while he walked towards you, hands tightening the black gloves he wore. He approached with a forceful stride, intimidating and almost frightening until he grabbed a hold of your wrist with a tight squeeze, his violet eyes staring down at you menacingly.
I told you not to leave, pet.
He spoke.
Pet?
The last thing I want is for the police to find you out here, let alone that walking explosion.
That look in his eye pierced into you, feeling his grip while he pulled you with him. You resisted his grip, yet he did not turn to face you or to reprimand you further. He just kept pulling. Faded images crossed your path, disturbing images of men and women fighting and shouting, breaking windows and overturning cars. It was as if the both of you walked through it without any notice.
Hitoshi! Stop! What are you doing?
You shouldn't be out here,
He remarked, walking you through what looked like remnants of a dark alley.
If Kirishima finds us here, I don't know what he'll do.
Despite his tight grip, he held you close, almost possessive, while he watched the world burn around him.
Let go of me!
You pulled your arm away, dispersing this memory of Shinsou inside this space. You tried to catch your breath, feeling a wave of emotion wash through your heart and fear through your spine. That was a lie, you thought. A trick of the mind, literally. No one has ever lied inside their head, but that wasn't Shinsou. At least, it wasn't your Shinsou. The Shinsou you knew who was sitting at home, probably still asleep. You wandered the now empty space, still hearing the whispers of distant memories until you bumped into somebody, his hands grabbing hold of your shoulders.
No, hey, watch where you're going.
He spoke, his grip on you soft and gentle, yet his eyes shone like amethysts behind his black eye makeup. You turned to find Shinsou again, dressed in a heavy cloak, yet underneath he was adorned by some regal clothes, similar to what Seek wore. He almost looked princely in this getup. Just what was he wearing?
Hitoshi?
You asked, staring up at his face, feeling the sensation of his hand across your cheek. It felt so real, so warm and inviting, as if he was standing there with you. Just as real as that other version of him, tugging you by the wrist, pulling you roughly through whatever memory you were stepping foot into.
You've always been clumsy, little lynx.
He cooed.
I may not be here to catch you next time.
You peered at his chest, noticing a twinkle against it. The same amber stone, the cat's eye, hanging by his neck. There was a light pulsating from its core, as if it were a heartbeat, until you noticed your necklace pulsating the same, in time with his. It felt warm to the touch.
It's working, at least.
He motioned, while he gingerly held onto your necklace.
Your heart and mine.
You peered at Shinsou's calm smile, the same as he would give you in the comfort of your home, while his hand laid open, inviting you to follow.
Who are you?
You asked, only finding that smile still present before his image disappeared, leaving you alone again.
What are these tricks?
You yelled into the emptiness.
Give me the truth!
They are the truth.
Spoke Seek, his image appearing before you while the white space was filled with a conglomerate of pictures that floated everywhere. More than you've ever seen in anyone's mind.
They're different truths. Pet, little lynx, kitten. You have many names.
The myriad of images that crossed his mind were overwhelming. There was not only Shinsou's visage painted in these memories, but your other former classmates as well.
I think that would go against my best friend's wishes.
Kirishima.
If you're looking for a way out, maybe entertaining. Be thankful I haven't decided to blow you up right now.
Bakugo.
I needed to know how far you've come. And for
You're
how
part
long
of the
you're
family
willing.
now. My family.
Midoriya.
Everyone gets a place to themselves, and better yet, like family.
Myself before you understand.
Todoroki.
All of this,
All
everything I
different.
do is to thanks to you, though. I now know I have to right a wrong in this world.
Continued Seek.
And it all starts with that one person you showed me back in that interrogation room.
What makes you think I believe you?
You retorted angrily.
Is this not enough proof?
Asked Seek, his arms in the air, motioning towards all of his memories.
Your Shinsou is not the same as those you've seen, but they are the same in spirit. You and he are connected together, no matter which world you hail from. You are tied, bonded, and nothing should get in the way of that except for one thing.
He suddenly walked up to you, grabbing hold of your hand, revealing something curling around your pinky, a red glow that fizzled outwards, reminiscent of a piece of string.
I was too late for one world. I've overseen many others, guided them, but even I left my own station, my own charges, because of an imbalance. I've been on my search ever since, because I can't return home.
You stared at him while he took hold of your wrist, unmoving, and didn't resist it. He was telling the truth. You felt it around you, but he was also giving you everything without resistance himself, as if he was willing to offer everything he knew. It overfilled your brain while you allowed this exchange.
Your world is at risk. Something is here trying to infect it. And even if you can't remember who or why you're here, just know this.
Seek raised your palm, showing that glittering piece of string again on your pinky. It was a tingling sensation while you watched it float around, warm and comforting.
If this is poisoned, you are lost.
Ended Seek's speech, his eyes darting around his mind space before he pulled away, severing your connection. With a deep breath, you woke from your daze, as did Seek, the both of you catching your breath from your quirk. You stared at him, still dazed and yet angered by what you saw, confused, lost, and unsure before you pushed the chair abruptly behind you and left the room. You leaned against the door of the room, running your fingers through your hair while you tried to collect your own thoughts. still feeling the resonant echoes of his mind in your head. There was too much. You questioned if they were all fabrications of his own making. Was that a quirk in itself? No, you recalled the reports of what had been witnessed. It was nothing like his talents back on Naboo Island.
Are you okay?
Spoke the agent as she approached you, her eyes with concern.
Yeah.
You uttered, calming your nerves.
It was a lot. What have you found? The both of you were silent for quite some time. How long? A couple of minutes. He's definitely not a local, but he's familiar with one member of the prison break, the psychiatrist.
You informed, standing on your feet with a wobble.
You should take a break,
suggested the agent.
He really took a toll on you.
You breathed deeply, recalling the warmth you felt against your collarbone, where your necklace laid. Strangely, it still kept this residual heat, its touch tender against your skin. Trick of the mind, you thought. Nothing more.
Hey, kitten.
Greeted Shinsou, your screen revealing him sitting on the couch with Toka in his lap.
Hey, Hitoshi.
You breathed, leaning your head against your hands in the empty lunchroom of the Commission's headquarters.
Had a good morning?
Yeah, slept well. Then this little thing decided to wake me.
You giggled at the sight of Shinsou picking Toka up, holding her to the screen while she sniffed around the camera.
Better company than what I have anyway.
Shinsou placed Toka comfortably back onto the floor, his tired violet eyes staring at the screen with some concern.
Rough morning.
I don't know. It's just this guy. The one Kirishima brought in from Naboo Island.
Tough one to crack.
Quite the opposite, actually. Happy to divulge, but just too much.
Staring into Shinsou's eyes recalled your experience in Seek's head, interacting with Shinsou's visage or versions of himself that contradicted your way of thought. There was no inkling of a lie, no intention to mislead as much as you tried to understand it that way.
Kitten, what's wrong?
Asked Shinsou. The look in his eye pained you while you glanced around the room, ensuring that no one was around and that you were truly alone.
He knows you.
You spoke in hushed tones.
I don't know how, but he knows you. Just not you.
How does that make sense?
I don't know. I dove into his head and I saw you. Every facade of you. A different you. It's so confusing. And I'm still trying to make heads and tails over it. And before you ask, he wasn't lying.
Silence. This whole morning had been nothing but an overpowering silence. You buried your head into your hands, still trying to understand what you had seen.
Kitten.
Spoke Shinsou, taking you away from your thoughts.
Come home.
I'm at work. I can't.
You reasoned.
Take the day off. I'm sure they don't want to exhaust your mind if this guy took this much away. How much did he access your head?
You froze, wondering the same. Your quirk could access surface thoughts, residual ideas, and voices from someone without knowing you were probing. However, once you entered someone's mind, the connection was a two-way street. That long moment with Seek could have been his attempts to access your mind if he knew.
Kitten, come home.
Ordered Shinsou.
I'll speak to the supervisor in charge. Besides, you can play with my hair again.
You exhaled with a sigh, smiling at Shinsou through the screen while your fingers rubbed against the stone hanging from your neck.
Thank you, Hitoshi.
I'll see you soon, kitten.
The screen disappeared onto your home screen, staring at the time before you grabbed the phone to pocket it away. The stone was still warm to the touch. You swore you felt it pulsate before you shook your head. Mind tricks. All mind tricks. Seek stared at his hand, feeling a tingle through his fingers before he stared at his reflection in the mirror, watching his brown eyes glow a golden hue. Traversing your mind landscape helped him greatly to understand the physics of the world, and who was connected where. Residual information collected still resonated in his head. The same players, the same charges. Even any information regarding the one charge he focused on, thanks to your knowledge of their actions, movements, and activity. The creak of the door caught his attention, watching the agent walk up to him with a key in hand to release his cuffs from the table. With a click of the key, Seek immediately pushed the agent to the wall, pushing his thumb into her forehead while the agent pushed and grunted against his strength.
What are you?
She uttered until the golden glow from Seek's hand blinded her, the room bursting alight. Now with keys in hand, Seek released himself from the cuffs, dropping them to the floor while he rubbed against his wrists. He turned behind him, finding what was left of the agent's clothes, covering a small girl sitting amongst them instead. Seek sighed inwardly, with a small smile on his face and a chuckle in his throat, while he inspected his hands.
So this is the kind of quirk you gave me?
He uttered, looking towards the ceiling.
Funny. Real funny.
He turned towards the agent, who looked confused, before he exited the room, his eyes gleaming gold.
I'll make good use of it if any. You'll hear from me soon, 14.
Thank you for tuning in to another fanfiction reading. If you enjoy the content or what I do, or would just prefer to fall asleep to my voice, please ring the bell, hit the like, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for visiting. I hope to hear from you soon, next we meet.